I'll have to check his book out. I kind of like the direct approach on occasion.
I think, being honest is wonderful, but I do think honesty with sensitivity is really important.
Yeah, I think you can definitely do some damage to people's feelings and their sensitivities, especially, many of us are empathic.
Right.
And we already sense and feel, everything around us, and so we're already, tuned up to hyperdrive.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody says something that's direct, it best not be coming from ego.
Well, that's the whole key is how can we do our best to keep the ego out of, our own personal agendas out of this kind of stuff. And the thing is that there's so much secrecy right now, and even, in our lives, a lot of us have a lot of secrecy from each other.
Yeah.
And I think that it is time to start moving towards more transparency, yet with sensitivity.
Absolutely. And, you just brought up an interesting point that we can be working on our own lives in releasing the parts of ourselves that, let's call it the shadow side or whatever, to the best of our ability to become more truthful and aligned with our soul's purpose. And that in itself shifts the whole planet.
Absolutely.
So, when people are looking about, this thing or that thing going on in the world, the wars, the health system collapse, the financial collapse, we're really looking at a macrocosm of our microcosm.
Yes.
And so by doing the work within ourselves, we're literally healing what's out there. And then when enough people do that, it shifts its reality.
Absolutely.
And, even if those people who are corrupt at the top of the system aren't able to make those changes, if enough at the bottom do, they have no place left to go except to, be brought out into the light. And it does seem that's happening more frequently with each passing day.
Absolutely, yeah. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
I'm amazed even these days. Sometimes, I'll hear a friend's mother who, they'll say, my friend says, oh, my mom is so conservative. Now she's even talking about some of the stuff. And some of the people on Oprah nowadays, she has amazing people on there talking about transformation.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because as you know, about maybe 5 or 10 years ago, 20, 30, 40 years ago, there wasn't that much. At least not much that was out in the public eye. There might have been esoteric schools, and of course, Werner Erhard had his S thing going on. He did a lot of transformational work, and so there's always something going on, that people might not be aware of. But it's never been quite so much out in the open as it is today, and I think that's a trend that's going to escalate.
Absolutely. Well, there's a key piece that a lot of people aren't aware of that is allowing things to change. Do you know that, it used to be if you wanted to set up a radio station in order to reach a larger audience, you had to have permission from the government. And it was very difficult and expensive to get that permission. And so there were a few rogue radio stations all around the country that were trying to put out some deeper news, but they'd often be shut down.
Yeah.
And nowadays, with the Internet, anybody can set up a podcast, and if you're putting out good stuff, boom, you start getting it out.
Yep.
And so in the past, it was really pretty easy to suppress some key deep information because the ownership of the media was controlled. But with the Internet now, anybody can do their stuff. And anybody can set up a website, a podcast, put up videos. And if it's good, a lot of these are going viral. Like, what's the one, the 9/11 video that went so viral there by Dylan Avery? Loose Change.
Oh, yes.
That was one of the first. That was back in 2004, I think. And they got tens of millions, something like 40 million views to that video that woke up so many people, including some friends of mine that didn't know about it, to what was going on with 9/11. And that never could have happened without the Internet.
Yeah. And then, of course, as much as I don't care for social networking modularities, but they are contributing to the speed of information with Twitter going out so fast and Facebook and the rest of it. If somebody picks up a bit of information that's important,
you got to go out quick.
It all over the world before you can blink an eyelash.
Oh, yeah. Well, I feel very lucky because of wantoknow.info and because it's become pretty popular. I have some key informants from around the world and also some key researchers that I'm in contact with. And if anything important happens anywhere, I'll have it. And we have kind of a network, and our whole network will have it usually within an hour.
Wow.
Sometimes if it's really important, I'll get it from 5 or 6 or 7 different people all at once, and boom, boom, boom. Then we'll send it out. Each of us has our own, like big email lists or websites or whatever, and we'll put it out. So any key information that comes out, boom, it starts spreading fast.
That's good. That's good. We're at a point where we need to be able to get to the information quickly.
Well, this is where we're in the new paradigm already. Because in the old paradigm, if you worked in intelligence, there was a saying that everybody talked about. It's like, those who know don't talk.
Mm-hmm.
And those who talk don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Any key knowledge that you had, you kept it to yourself, because knowledge was power, and if you kept it private and only let it out at the right moment, you could use it and manipulate it for your own purposes.
Yeah.
And now the new paradigm is exactly the opposite. As soon as I get any key information that's going to be helpful to me, boom, I want to share it with everybody.
Absolutely right, because then you empower everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not just, trying to hold on to some little snippet of power for your own personal gain, but
exactly,
you're empowering other people, and the feeling that you get from that is so much more
satisfying, gratifying, right?
Gratifying, yes. You're helping, you're empowering and making changes, and I can't imagine anything better than that.
Absolutely, and then you even have huge networks like BBS Radio, which we're talking on right now. I mean, BBS has grown now and has this whole network of very inspiring and also very deep messages going out, and millions and millions of listeners all the time.
Yes, and in fact, I just did an interview recently with one of the BBS Radio hostesses.
Oh, great.
Patricia Corey, and she's written a trilogy of books. One of them was Atlantis Rising.
Uh-huh.
And her latest is Where Pharaohs Dwell. And I'm telling you, she is just awesome.
Nice.
And her show is called Beyond the Matrix. And
nice. I like it.
Yeah, for years she's gone to the sacred sites and taken people on tours to the pyramids and, all the various places, the Stonehenge and the crop circles. And her work is extremely inspiring.
Nice.
And so, there's a lot of great way showers out here, and we are getting a lot of good information. And BBS Radio has some, just incredible. Again, sometimes I look at the front page and I think, oh my God, there's some great shows.
Cutting edge stuff.
Yeah.
And BBS is not alone. There's a lot of great networks out there, and more and more people waking all the time. Yes.
So one that I like to frequent is Conscious Media Network.
Oh, yes, she is great. I've had some email communications with her, and she is awesome. I can't remember her name, but... Regina, yes.
Yeah, she's great.
She's got one of the best websites out there. It's like hers is almost the video version in some ways of wantoknow.info.
Yeah.
She has a strong focus on videos.
And then, of course, you've got Project Camelot's come along.
Oh, they are so important, yes.
Boy, I'm telling you, you may not agree with, some of the directions or people that they interview or everything that the people say.
Sure.
But on the whole...
Yep. What they're doing is they're interviewing key insiders, and anybody who hasn't gone, projectcamelot.com, is it, or .org? I don't remember.
I think it's...
But anyway, whenever there's a key government insider who comes out with information, they go and do an interview. And they acknowledge this doesn't mean that what this insider is telling is true. They could be spreading disinformation or misinformation.
Right.
But let's put it all out there, and then you listen to all the interviews combined, and it starts presenting a bigger picture that is pretty stunning.
Yes. Well, when you start to realize that many of the people who were talking mentioned the fact that there are advanced bases that we've established on Mars, on the Moon, and possibly on some of the other planets.
Right.
And that we have hyperdimensional drives.
Right.
We have time travel. We have this. I even interviewed a fellow who was in Project Pegasus in the 70s.
Andy Basaggio?
Yes.
Yeah, I actually interviewed him a number of years ago, back when it was still being kept quiet.
Oh, really? Isn't he a great guy?
He's amazing.
Just phenomenal.
I'm so glad that it came out, because, I've been able to tell people a little bit about what he told me, but I couldn't tell the details because that was the agreement. Mm-hmm. But now that he's come out, I can talk about it, and it's like I was one of the people. He's up in the Seattle area.
Oh.
And he came down to Marin, and I was called in because I'm kind of an expert in mind control, and part of his programs involve mind control. Mm-hmm. And so I really kind of grilled him on mind control, and he knew everything. It's like he convinced me that, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that he was really in these programs. And then
he's the real deal.
Oh, and he gave so much more.
Yes. I've got one interview archived with him, and he talks about going to Mars with his handler, and they got into a kind of an elevator, which was an odd shape, and then it seemed to kind of move, and then when they got out, they were underneath the surface of Mars in the kind of a bunker area, and they took a walk out on the surface, and he described the animal life.
Wow.
Animal life. And there was one in particular that was a fairly large animal that had an odd kind of almost human-like head and more like a lion-type body. And he asked his CIA handler, well, is that something we need to be afraid of? And the guy said, well, let me put it to you this way. As soon as you get to that rock, run.
Right.
And he did. And apparently the entrance they have giant kind of heads that stick up above the ground, and then you walk out one of the eyes, and there's a ramp, and you go out one of the eyes, and supposedly these heads are to kind of create a mystique for these creatures that are afraid of them. So,
right.
I mean, there was so much more than that. I mean, it was just, oh my God, he's one.
Well, let me just, for people who might be interested, Andrew, I believe, I'm going to check this as I'm saying it, Basiago, I believe is how it's spelled. I'm just checking as I say that. Andy, and I think it's Bashago is how he pronounces it.
Yes, it is.
And one of the stories he shared that was most convincing to me, yep, that's correct, I just Googled it, and Andrew D. Bashago.
And he's at exopolitics.com, I think.
Yes, that's right. He works with Alfred Weber.
Yes.
At exopolitics.com. And so one of the stories that I haven't heard shared in a couple interviews I've listened to him is that one of the times he was sent back through this time travel stuff, which seems really far out there, and like, how can that be true? But he told me about this story when he was sent back to the time of the Gettysburg Address.
Oh.
And he said sometimes when they would be sent back, they would lose some of their clothes, and in that particular time he did. And so there are always people ready in these future times. They actually have time portals throughout the sort of the time-space spectrum. And so his receivers immediately, all they had there was like some big soldier stuff. So they gave him these big boots to put on and this big trench coat to cover him. But then he said the thing that blew him away was one day he was searching on the Gettysburg Address, and he found a photo that was taken with a daguerreotype way back then of one of the earliest photos there, and there he is himself standing in the foreground of the picture.
Oh, my
And he said he was just floored. And he showed me the picture. He Googled and he found it. It's like, we found it on Google. We typed in Gettysburg Address photo. And you see this kid there standing with these way oversized shoes and a big old coat standing there about 12 feet away in the foreground.
Wow.
So I was like, whoa, how is that for verification, you know?
Well, he is the real deal. I mean, as soon as I heard him, I knew that, you know, this guy is not making anything up. This is all, you couldn't possibly.
Right.
And, apparently Project Pegasus was, now this is something that most people might not know, was funded by the Vatican secretly.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was run through DARPA and the CIA.
Yeah, it gets very complex. And one thing, though, that's really important to